And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Treasury Guild call. I'm gonna drop the Maraport link again to the chat. Today, this is our first call in January. So, and it's going to be a hopefully quite full of proposals. And as you know, we have budget discussions as usual in here. This time we are starting the first thing of quarter with that, so and better than usual. It still will take time to get on that. I did outline few agenda items, but and one of them is like gathering proposals. So I know there are some people still do some kind of budgeting and proposals. So if possible, drop them in the Zoom chat or in Discord, I mean in the Miro board. And then we can see what we have. And you mentioned instead of going through the proposals, or even if we go through the proposals, should we explain first where to find like proposal templates and stuff like that, and why we are doing proposals now, and when was that decided?
I think that would be good. Yeah, based on earlier calls. There's some clarity we can relatively simply take away, I feel.
Okay. So I'll check if there will be some kind of meeting notes or decision items, because I think that was like 6 months ago when we talked about we start with proposals. But at the end of Q4, actually, I think at the end of Q3 or somewhere when we lined on Q4, we said that, okay, from Q1, we start with proposals.
Yeah, I do think that's accurate, but at the same time, I found myself mentioning this, for example, sorry to put you on the spot, Tommy, yesterday during Treasury strategy call. And I'm not so certain as I was yesterday that we did put forward a straightforward request for quarterly budget proposals, and I've seen this similar in other work groups as well. So, yeah. That being said, I don't think it's big harm being done by them not being ready right now. But yeah.
Yeah, going simply through these meeting notes from the Treasury Guild side, I can't really find that easily. But I remember like at least once per month, I kept sending people these templates and saying, hey, what is the expectation? So for sure, this has been said several times. Yeah, we are going back now far too early. So looks like it wasn't maybe in the meeting summaries, and if it's missing there, then people say it never happened. Cool bet. So and regarding templates, so I always share the knowledge base one, so I'm gonna quickly go into the knowledge base workgroup, or I'm in the process modeling workgroup. And here is this board. But then the minimum requirements proposal was done. Yeah, okay, then it wasn't that long ago. That was just 3 months ago. So it's not 6 months. It's just the discussion started that we need proposals was 6 months ago, but it wasn't then yet defined what they will look like. I'm gonna copy and paste.
Tevo, I think those discussions were all circled around new guilds and new workshops, not existing. And to date, we haven't done proposals on existing on a quarterly basis.
Well, they were expected for like each work group will have a proposal, and I think that is something that I said constantly. Like the new people, what was mentioned several times is that usually the new work groups and stuff, they don't need a proposal because that's like they're just playing around and seeing like what works and what not. So we made this kind of clear that it would be simple. But on that note, so we do have like an entire quarter to kind of figure that out, like and like what work groups are doing and what they are expecting and what they are providing to the members. So comparison. So it's fine. It threw on some links to the my report. So for example, usually what most of you are going to expected to do is this workgroup space template. What it includes is basically, it also explains how to get the proposal like evaluated and accepted. But now it's a good question, do we want to use these rules that was set up back then, or we want to recreate them? Because this week there was discussion that having like a contributor list, like a core contributors, and then having like a higher voting weight to decide what goes in, what goes out, and how to manage stuff. Where previously, when these templates were created, they were kind of assumed that the ambassadors will remain and be the ones who be choosing what to focus on. But yeah, rest of the doc is like the strategy, there where you basically answer like what is your work group is providing to the Singularity Net, and yeah, like express a specific purpose, address some specific organization program.
Right. This was set up for new groups coming in, such as when Archival came in, which was the first group, and then you've had gamers guilds. But this, if you're putting this on existing guilds and work groups, it's just a layer of bureaucracy.
No, but this is important because it's also is somewhat like onboarding. Like one big issue what we had was that the new people who are joining, they don't know what work groups are doing, and in order to kind of get to knowledge like what they're doing, they have to join meetings and they spend meeting time, and we are not able to share Ambassador Program as like what we do here. Like it's people have to kind of pull the information out from us. And Vanessa, you have hand up.
Yeah, just a bit confused. Is this meant to be a template for a quarterly budget proposal, or is this something else? Sorry.
This is a proposal, like to request. It is well, again, this was made before the budget limits were introduced. So
right.
It is somewhat confusing, and that kind of changed a little bit my proposals too. But they are the same thing generally.
See, they wouldn't. I don't think they would, because there's no figures in this, and it's like a work proposal. Yeah, it's kind of like what we want to do over. I suppose you'd say you just restructure it so it's about what you want to do as a work group over the quarter, but it doesn't seem to have really any correlation with the budget. I might be missing something, sorry, but
well, like the fourth section, resources, what are actual rewards, what is the market value of software hardware requirements? This does create a budget.
yeah, but it's a really roundabout way of doing it.
I see more than a half a page. I get mind boggled here. I'm in agreement with Vanessa. This is not effective, efficient, or what we need.
I mean, I'm not
We-
saying we
we-
don't need any of this information, but I don't know. What do you think of as a budget, Tommy? Because I was thinking of like a spreadsheet with some numbers in it.
But that's fine. That's simple. I mean, we have existing guilds and work groups, and it's documented what they're doing. And each quarter, when we started initially the FRs, which had no budget limits, and now we've gone to budgets, we put in numbers last quarter, just willy-nilly what we thought. There was no real supporting evidence to it. I think a very simple spreadsheet is, what are you proposing to do for the quarter? How much do you need to do it? And what are you going to accomplish? Very simple. I think you keep this, Tevo, and I think this is a good structure for anybody new coming in, such as, and I'll use Gamers Guild, but this all started with Archival, because they were the first ones coming in that wanted to put in a different structure. The gamers also came in, so I think you keep it simple.
Okay, well, where I came from it and why this took so much time was because we want to evolve people on what they're doing. The first thing, like when you mention new people, what actually new people are doing, they have proposal requirements that require very minimum information. Like when you see this chart, just looking at the colors, the only thing the new people will need to say is they express purpose, and then they have some few like strategy stuff, but there will be, and yeah, of course, most of the stuff is like optional here on resources. So the new people don't actually have to make a proposal that is very complicated, and you probably will take like half an hour to kind of come up. And then the next step is you're starting to kind of live into like larger quarterly budgets. So because you kind of have a goal, you have an idea of what you're doing. And now we have been doing this, what we have been doing for several months now. We should have a better understanding what we are doing, what we need, and who are doing, and what kind, like a structure has emerged over these several months now. And this is now the ninth month. So the expectation is that using that 6 months of previous experience, you turn it into one pager basically, and which is a proposal saying what you did and what you're planning to do. So you kind of put them together. So it's not like yes, it's a bureaucratic thing a bit, but it's also an important thing because it is, again, it's onboarding, it's representation, and it will put us into a path where we have more transparency on what each workgroup are doing and how they are doing it. Guilermo. You're unmuted.
Hi there, hey, Tevo. Hi everyone, Tommy, Vane, Peter, always there, and the computer. So just trying to bring some clarity. I think the discussion is valid and solid, and I'm gonna just copy paste on the chat. And I agree, Tevo. So I'm representing here the discussion we already have in the chat. We are presenting first time here on the Treasury Guild. Rojo just DM me. He's going to be a little bit late. So I'm going to jump in because I think you're having a discussion and I can probably bring some valid points to the discussion. Following the template, following the idea of bringing transparency, and yesterday we spent some time with Rojo working on the proposal we are bringing for merging the incubation guild and the developers group into a new research and developer guild. And we did just what Tevo was trying to explain, and there is Rojo jumping online. We put together, following your template and the idea of transparency, uh, the guidelines of the template that gives at least fresh and starting to start the discussion, the idea of what the value proposition of the guild, the idea of the goals, short KPIs, how we would like the guild to be evaluated in the process, the idea of a quarterly budget that is in a second file, an Excel file, explained and disclosed. Roles, responsibilities, accountability, and for the team that is going to be involved, an idea of how we will governance the guild, an idea of how we will onboard new members, recurrent tasks, workshops, projects, and finally a small item for links referred. So just so I support Tevo's arguments. We have been around for a while. We standardize what we have learned, and we present new ideas or work groups, the elements of our experience. In this case, for myself, it has been an easy task because I'm partnering with Rojo, that it's an old member of a team, and he knows the procedure. So yesterday, we have a clear objective on, we have been discussing what we want to bring as a guild for the ambassadors. This has been an open discussion on the chat. So it was an easy task to put this idea down. But on top of that, again, all the experience that Rojo brought to me on this 2-hour online work we did yesterday, it was easy. But on top of that, it was simple because we follow some guidelines. So this template was very useful, and the needs to bring to the Treasury to present a new proposal, they were clear on my side, because I read your template you shared a couple of days ago. So it was easy. So it really helped. I don't know if it's Tommy, we all decentralized maximalist. We try to avoid bureaucracy, but we need procedures. We talked yesterday about this in review cycle meeting. We need to standardize to get better product at the end, whatever the product it is. So I don't know if this helps to the discussion you guys were having, but yeah, I just share the links in the chat. Rojo, so you just jump in. So you want to add something to that? Bring it on.
I missed a lot of what's going on. I'm very sorry for being late. Just came back from work. I'm actually wondering what's happening and what are you guys talking about?
Before that, you mentioned you dropped in the proposal in chat, but I don't see it. Maybe you gave it to 3DI or something. And well, so we started discussing from why do we even need proposals in first place? And Tommy thinks this is an unnecessary bureaucratic thing. And apparently very few or almost nobody knows that we are expected to have proposals in Ambassador Program starting from Q1. And then I try to defend the situation why we should have proposals, and that now kind of has like divided into two discussions. One is like, why should we have proposals, and how do we, and why are they needed, and how are like quarterly budgets related to it. And then Guilermo also stepped in to share his thoughts on the like creating a proposal process and why he thinks it's necessary.
Cool. I kind of heard a bit of what Guillermo was saying, and I agree with it. Maybe just to add some details, one of the main purpose why we're trying to build, and again, the proposal that we have, I don't know if it was shared or not, but it's shared in incubation channel. So Yeah, the main reason for it is to get clarity between the members of the guild and just to know, first of all, as members, to know what we're supposed to do and what are we working towards. And second of all, for other people looking to join the guild or just looking at the guild, to know what is this group doing basically. And yeah, I mean, all of the relevant files are in the drive, in the main drive file for research and development guild. We have a spreadsheet. I don't know if it will share it as well. That one has all of the relevant projects that will be worked on in Q1, alongside the budgeting for that. The proposal, again, I reiterate, it's not finalized, and a lot of the members haven't looked into it as much as we would like to. So probably we should give it like a week or two max, and then we'll have probably like a good like version 1. I think we have some solid ideas over there, but again, I mean, it's we should still get feedback. So yeah. I don't know if I missed something, but if anyone has a question, shoot.
Well, not directly a question on the R&D Guild's proposal. I assume you're fine with me calling it R&D Guild, or do you insist on research and development?
R&D is just fine. I like that as well.
Cool. Yeah, so basically, I do kind of follow the reasoning of, well, basically, Tommy and Vanessa, and I share this myself as well. Perhaps we could treat it as separate issues, where we both get a budget proposal and a workgroup description. And then onwards, we can simply attach this description every time to the budget proposal. Like, it wouldn't need much update between quarters, I imagine.
I don't know how Guillermo actually explained this, but just to give you my piece of the pie, the proposal is not meant to be a budget proposal. That's a guild proposal. It's internal, but also, I mean, external in terms of people looking towards the structure of the guild. But it's supposed to be something long term that we will keep editing and reiterating. The budget is the Excel sheet. I don't know if it was shared. I think Tevo has it on the board, but that's the budget.
Yeah, I understand.
We can add some links. We'll probably add more links about some proposals, links and stuff like that. But that's basically the budget.
Well, I understand that. And Vanessa, I do see your hands, but I just want to put in one tiny comment. Like, in a way, R&D is kind of like a new setup, merging the two groups. So for that, it makes perfect sense to have like a proper description of what it is. But I get the impression, at least, that, for example, for incubation or strategy or archive or onboarding, there's the feeling that, yeah, well, we kind of know what these groups are doing. However, it's not right now. It's not formatted in this proposal format where it's like completely spelled out as clear as possible. And I do think it would be valuable to have that for each and every work group. But in my mind, it would be better for now, short term, to simply focus on the budget. Yeah, then do the full description a bit later.
For sure. And I would actually recommend anyone having questions about like what the work group is going to do, because we're still figuring things out. But join in on the discussion like in our next meeting. And I think it will be great because we will be discussing stuff and then you can give us some ideas and then we can, reiterate this thing. But I think right now we should focus on budget. I agree with that.
Vanessa?
Yeah, I'm seconding or thirding, focusing on the budget. But I just wanted to say, like, from the perspective of the archives work group, obviously we were the first group that kind of put in a proposal, I think, and kind of so we've got that already. But I'm just thinking what you were saying, Peter. Doesn't it? I don't know. It just feels a little bit as if it's in danger of setting it a little bit too rigidly in stone for groups, because I can, maybe not so much for archives, but for other groups, I can see their function developing and changing as they go along. And so having this like for all time kind of, this is what we're about, and then trying to match that with the budget somehow feels a little bit clunky. And I think maybe they need to rather than write a long proposal like this, maybe they need to do that when they first set up. But maybe it's more like 3 lines about, okay, for this quarter, our focus is this, and then here's our budget. And then we can say, well, does that budget, is it going to achieve what you say your focus is for this quarter?
Comment?
Yeah, as Vanessa said, it almost seems like it's a roadmap, and many projects fail when they put out a roadmap because they have to adhere to it, and it makes it rigid. But as a suggestion, Tevo, can we go through the Treasury Guild proposal, if you could blow it up on the screen and not move it and shake it and go through it line by line to explain what your thinking is. And by the way, this was never agreed to, and you seem to assume it's a fait accompli, but it was never agreed to or discussed in the larger Ambassador General venue. It may have been discussed in PBL and other places, but it hasn't been discussed or agreed on in any of the Treasury meetings that I've sat through or any of the other meetings. So I'm not against it. I just don't want rigid bureaucracy. I do believe budgets could be put in every quarter. But if you could go through your Treasury Guild proposal, thank you.
Okay, I can do that. Before I go to Treasury Guild proposal, does anybody else wants to add something to the discussion of why we need proposals or budgets? Okay. If not, then yeah, let's jump into it. Treasury Guild. So yeah, following the template myself, the workgroup one. So this is what I came up. So this group aims to enhance the singularity and ambassador program by, and that's the context we have been using, structuring ambassador rules around payments, tasks, and anything related to financial activities, provide the space for members to learn and operate the treasury funds. Our goal is to advise ambassador program budget, requests, and spending. And our deliverables, and these are something that we have already been doing, but there is a new one too, like meeting notes, proposals for consistent and quality of output. And so these are like the that kind of goes into like this proposal itself, and also helping others to do proposals. And when we do these quarterly budgets, that we kind of aggregate everything together where we can vote on. Then distribution, documentation, like transaction method auditing, registering, analyzing. So all the T-work stuff, all the kind of what as a treasury operations we do, tooling to make reward distribution easier. And that's also coming with the treasury fee we have, tooling to make decision-making easier. These are the dashboards, and that's how I see it. Workshops to learn to operate treasury funds. So this is the new one that is going to launch from basically from next week, where we will invite people to join to these sessions where we audit and do the transactions. And here I have also the budgeting. So to spreadsheet, if somebody wants to check in, quite short, mainly consists of these meetings and facilitation, also facilitation of the operations. Added a bit of like async onboarding in case there are new people are coming in. It's a very small budget, like, and then also this is something which we should discuss also later. But for example, unplanned documentation activities. So there is always something that needs to be done that is not accounted for, and so to make it easier, I just added the rough estimation of $400 for the quarter, and then also the treasury fee. And then I break this same treasury down in this section in the proposal also. I can also drop the link in if somebody wants to follow with their own screen. In addition, we also expected to
Okay. Yeah, hold on. You just skipped over. What's the Swarm Treasury Guild service fee for $2,200 a month?
That's the fee that has been rewarded so far, like since inception. That's the the implementation of the work and then running the operations call and all the developments and the dashboards and everything that we agreed long time ago, which we came back to, I think once or maybe even twice, but we haven't changed it. So I just kept that line in here too.
Right, but shouldn't that be justified every quarter if every other expense is being justified? I mean, what actually is $2,200 for, or 2,200 AGIX?
And yeah, and that is the operations of the treasury system and keeping that entire development system up to date, like creating improvements to the dashboard, creating improvements to the treasury management, and running the operations even if we go over time. And of course the justification is needed, and that's why this proposal is kind of submitted. So if most of you right now and say that, hey, this proposal is too expensive, then it doesn't pass, then we are not gonna get rewarded. So it's not like we are not requesting it anymore.
Well, I'm a pretty simple guy. I don't understand what it is that you're doing for 2,200. And are you charging $100 an hour for meeting?
And the meetings are different. So Swarm Treasury Guild fee. So like I said, this is everything that is done with the Swarm Treasury system. It includes dashboards, Power BI, the Treasury Manager, and the operations and transactions and development of metadata.
Yeah, but isn't all the operations in the other spreadsheet? Isn't that?
Yes, there is a new row. There is 12 up to 120 minute treasury operation workshops. That is $600. This means that this will last like for entire quarter. And these are now additional costs adding to that, because now we're going to transparent mode. It includes then training people, and that's why it may actually now start to take more time to do this, these operations. And if you're interested to this auditing and operations, then next week, if you join and you also are willing to learn this and you facilitate, like probably the first session, I will mostly show stuff. I show the documentation a bit, what we have, show how we audit, how do we create the, like bundle the transactions and all that stuff. But next week after that, if you facilitate the operation itself, you try to see, okay, now I understand why we have these dates, and you basically check the tasks that are imported in from the Tevo, or now we also can use the Clockify, then you will be getting that $50. So these are like two different things. If it still is not enough, perhaps I can make an additional proposal that explains the like Swarm Treasury Guild service, like what we are offering. Because again, this is the full thing what the proposals are for. Like we previously we just said like, hey, this is the entire system we're gonna set up, and this is how it's easier to distribute funds and all that, and also kind of make it machine reader and all that. But we never put it into a proposal. It was always like meetings and some Miro board, the calculations. Then we came to agreement. But if now this is not enough, of course we can write stuff. We actually technically we have proposals about that. We have the Catalyst proposals actually are treasury service. So, but yeah, it's slightly different for Singularity, because we are no longer building the core infrastructure. We now have the core infrastructure. We just adding more features on top of that. For example, this price.
But I think we rewarded Andre directly for those core features that he added.
Yes and no. Like, there is one thing to need to consider is that Ambassador Program does not have enough budget to reward the cost of actually pulling all that. Like Andre is putting average of 40 hours per, I think, per month or week into developing, and development costs, as you know, are quite expensive. So we are just quite simply kind of grinded it down to, let's say, to $2 or $3 per hour. But again, do we need, because right now I don't have like a clear documentation to show what is one Treasury. Is this thing needed? And if yes, then I will note it down, and by the next meeting for sure I will have it.
Sounds like a great thing. I mean, yeah, if other guilds would put it as this, we would also request it. So yeah, I do think we had a presentation, by now about a year and a half ago, where everything got laid out. But if there's not a document giving a short overview, that would be very good to have.
And let me ask, where is the budget for the time spent in putting that document together? How much did it cost? And how much is it going to cost Singularity Net for all guilds to put this together?
As you know, I take my time on Tevo, so quick link. So I think this is an ongoing proposal, so it has taken the most time compared to other proposals I've written. So I think it's around 3 hours now total from me and Vanessa. Although I have no clue what are the Vanessa's time spent, so I just average it to like 1 hour from 2 different reviews. And I myself have been spending 3 hours on that so far, to draft and then updating, adding info. And just yesterday I added the sheet and more stuff on it. But
okay, so what would be your guesstimate on the total cost?
Yeah, $60 to $70. But consider this like, this is something what Peter mentioned. Once you have that, that is like the difference what Vanessa said. But if this Treasury good thing, this is somewhat consistent thing. It doesn't change every quarter that Treasury is doing something different. So once we have the proposal, the quarter 2 is not going to be another $100 for creating a proposal, because we have most of the information. And there might be some additional roles, maybe another work group associated, because this proposal right now is missing the idea of what you brought up, Tommy, the extra auditing work group. We kind of incorporated into the operations, just seeing how that would play out. And if that is enough of transparency. If not, then of course we need to expand more requirements of what it is to run a Treasury Guild.
Well, not just the Treasury Guild, Rojo and Guillermo, how much time did you put into your proposal?
Personally, I have it written somewhere, but I think like 5 hours maybe or something.
So what was the cost?
I don't know. Guillermo, but this is just me. Guillermo also put in probably around the same time. So yeah, I mean, if you put that at 20 or 15 an hour, what would that give you? It's quite costly, to be honest.
And we have 200 bucks. And
there is a caveat.
How many units?
There is a caveat though, Tommy. We didn't make that proposal for Treasury. That's not the main purpose. The main purpose is for us as a group to basically establish some KPIs and some goals. And the aftermath of that is just sharing it with Treasury to let everyone know, basically. But at least it wasn't my intention. I mean, I didn't even know that Treasury required proposals. I thought it was just budget. So yeah, that proposal is like very separate work. And it's not for just a quarter, it's a, you know, for the work group, it's a long term.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit a mood to say that, whoa, the proposals are taking so much time, because having a purpose written down is better than what we have been doing mostly before, which is constantly meetings about what are we doing and onboarding, which is costing hundreds and hundreds more time, like with it, of the cost of like telling people what is workgroup about, compared to assetizing the knowledge and the insights and make it able to share people what the workgroup is about. Instead of running a meeting to say what is workgroup about, which is also a cost of time and money.
Right, but to follow up on my question about the cost, is it seems with the number of groups that this is going to be a $3,000 per quarter expense. That's not budgeted for.
I mean, it is budgeted for. Like, I mean,
where is the $3,000 budgeted?
So
This
basically,
is
you're
a whole-
arguing
this is a
that
whole new-
we
this
should
is a
not
whole new
make
expense.
proposals because it costs money.
Well, what I would suggest then is you go to an annual budget so you don't have the expense every quarter. You're putting in unnecessary bureaucracy and expense on the Treasury system.
I feel we should first stick with quarterly budgets before moving to yearly budgets, but eventually we can. I mean,
But just recognize with the hours, it's about, from my quick calculations, it's about $3,000 per quarter.
yeah, well, then you kind of skip the part where most things wouldn't change, and every quarter starts from the beginning, which is not the case. Like the mission of, well, any work group very likely wouldn't change across quarters. So then it would simply be a check like, is this budget accurate for the coming quarter? If yes, well, go, half an hour spent. If no, well, you need to adjust the budget, but I wouldn't change the mission and vision if there's no need for it. So then it would not be work. But maybe I'm naive there and I'm missing something.
I think
Vanessa?
it's about the
Yeah,
level
Vanessa,
of, yeah, I think it's about the level of detail that we're looking at in these mission statements. There's quite a lot in the ones that have been shared so far, and there's a lot of rhetoric packed in there. I just feel like strip that back and make it about a budget proposal, as in what do you want to do this quarter and what's it going to cost? And then maybe if we need to, maybe once a year, you can look at whether the things that you want to do and that you've costed and that the ecosystem has said, yes, we want you to do that. We support your funding request. If we then maybe once a year look at, oh, has this diverged from what you originally said that your work group was about? And if it has, that's actually fine, as long as you're still doing good work. But I think probably you're right, Peter, what you said in the chat, that the overall mission of a work group, like the 3-line top level summary, won't change. But the level of detail that we've got in these documents, I think, yes, of course it will change and it should change. And I don't think we need to worry too much about that. And maybe every so often we need to see whether it still matches and whether groups are duplicating themselves. But yeah, too much rhetoric.
I'm surprised you say too much rhetoric when in the Treasury Guild proposal that was shown, there was only one line about the goal. So that's not that much. But maybe I mean, I agree with what you're saying, like, and all against creating unnecessary bureaucracy.
I don't want to cut in over you, Rojo, but I was just going to say that I think rhetoric is more than just your mission statement, and I think there is quite a lot in there.
I actually had a question. Can we maybe get like an explanation about like what is the difference between this proposal, which is also quarterly, and the quarterly update report? I don't know if all work groups and guilds have been doing that, but I think some have been, as requested by Peter. So what would be the difference?
I would say one is looking back and the other forward.
And wouldn't they be around the same timeline? So maybe like merging both. So
Sure.
having like a view to the back and to the future in the same report. That might be a way of reducing paperwork.
I guess so, and I would agree with that. Again, I'm all for keeping things as simple as possible. Yeah. And I think for most of the work groups, they'll be relatively simple to copy paste in all the stuff in the template. Like, as Tommy mentioned, most work groups have something out there already. But at the same time, for quite a lot of work groups, it's all over the place and unclear. So I think this is mostly just an attempt to, what's the word? Unify, let's say, like get a bit of consistency.
I mean, I'm to be honest, I'm personally all for sharing updates and looking back at work being done. I like that. I'm not necessarily against that. I just see that I see that Treasury Guild is not the place for it. Simply, I mean, probably Town Hall would be a better place for it. But again, I mean, we're supposed to do accounting here and then look if the numbers make sense and then maybe explain those numbers a bit, but that's about it. I mean, looking into strategy needs like a bigger view from like, and even like the attendance in Treasury is not that high. So if you share anything here, I mean, yes, it will be shared on YouTube, but who watches these videos anyway? We get more attendance in Town Hall, so maybe that's a better place to share these strategies, looking back, looking forward to the future, all these kind of details. But again, I mean, we go back to the main point. Let's just focus on budget and maybe deal with that. And once it's done, we can focus on our actual mission, you know?
Shall I continue sharing the proposal, or was that now a way to segue into looking at what is our actual Q1 budget and calculating from these three proposals that are put in, how much that will take off from the proposal? And I guess we need to estimate a little bit what are other work groups expecting. Vanessa.
Just a bit of a side issue. I think somewhere in the doc that you're sharing there, I've raised this. I was thinking that Treasury probably needs to create some sort of an idea of on what basis can a budget be challenged? And, you know, if we're going to say, well, we can say, oh, I don't think you should get funded because it isn't in line with your mission, then people should know that. Or if it's purely about, oh, I don't think these costs are reasonable. Because it's not just going to be people who are coming to these meetings who challenge budgets. I've seen it happen all over the shop. And if there was just some kind of a document that says, you know, these are the valid bases on which to question a budget, I think that would save us a lot of time and energy and maybe a lot of nitpicking. I don't know.
Yeah, that is a hard challenge. I don't know how to answer, because it's very hard to say to other people that your price is not fair, because then you are going to compare with other work groups or other people, and then you're already getting into why are we comparing each other's work to each other.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So if a document said, no, you can't challenge people on that basis, then it would stop people doing it.
Okay. Yeah, well, we had continuous policy rules that we started last month and like last quarter. Would that be more important than figuring out should work groups get rewarded and how much budgets they can use before, or shall we first still kind of have some kind of alignment on what are work groups doing? Is their budget requests feasible? And then come back to this policy rules. Because I think both of these things are something that we have constantly been trying to figure out, and these discussions have happened around it. And we have now even experienced like several of these kinds of situations, which hopefully has increased our internal kind of experience on what is valid argument, what is not. But yeah, to me, it's hard to prioritize this because our capacity and energy that is put into trying to figure out and making this distribution and fairness across Ambassador is very limited. Yes, I see people are joining in Treasury Guild and sharing their thoughts, but beyond that, there is very little work happening. I mean, yeah. So that makes it hard, like the capacity issue is huge. Guilermo, you had your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. I don't want to bring an argument or a discussion, but just an experience. So what had happened, for example, in the review circle, I think it's a good example for this. And again, a step behind. I'm sorry I share the statements of the proposal, value proposition on that, but it's like building a house. You bring a blueprint and you bring a budget. A budget without a blueprint of what you're going to do, it doesn't have sense. So, and it's a long term, and it's going to keep adding. Any work group or guild should have it. Not to bring a bold statement of what they're going to do, at least to bring a keynote for the melody, and then you play on. Then you can improvise. So Vani, is not that you are not going to be able to bring something out of the hat, and this is not a limitation for a creative experience, but at least brings a certainty of what an investment for a treasury is gonna put tokens for. That said, going back to the review circle, it's my first time participating on the review circle. And one thing that we brought up in one of the first meetings we have, Tommy, I'm sure you remember this, the same Rojo. My first thought was, okay, so we having problems on onboarding. So first thought was, okay, so who's auditing milestones? We are milestone-based budget open, okay? But who's auditing? So the first thought or the first procedure was, okay, copy-paste. The teams will copy-paste the milestones they have in the proposal, but who's auditing? And now we are building, for the last month, a whole process to be able to audit and to validate what the teams are supposed to be delivering. This brought a whole layer of complexity, but we shouldn't fear complexity. We need to go through this because at the end, round 3, we need to get service on board the platform. That's the main task of the keep funding program. And yeah, it's a lot of work. And I support, again, Tevo, I'm sorry, I'm going to be backing you up, because it's easy to bring questioning procedures, but then you need a lot of work to do to make shit happen. And last thing, I participated in the Incubation Guild last year. I follow procedures, and I following flies, assignment, I developed 2 tasks. And I follow all this, do work step by step, and I deliver in time, and I care, and I try to be accountable for what I said I was going to do. But it wasn't the standard for all the guild. And at the end, we need to be transparent with the community. And so we need to, at the end, if we do more for the same money, okay, it's good, but we need to be accountable. Now, what ways we have to do that? Okay, so having a blueprint and having a budget. Then if you build a house, it's good. Okay, so you gain trust. And that way you will keep moving forward, and you being accountable, and you being responsible, and you bring things to the table. So I understand this. It is a lot of work, as Tevo mentioned, but we shouldn't fear. This is a personal thought. We shouldn't fear that. We all have different capacities. At the end, it's all about budget and treasury, but yeah, we need to be able to prove at the end of the line of the quarter that we are accountable for the money that is put on the table for us to bring solutions as a research and development team in our case. So again, a standard procedure is just excuse me the music metaphor again, just a keynote for an improvisation. Then you fucking get creative with it and do more. So I totally support that we shouldn't fear. At least we need a melody where just and put colors. If not, it's going to be all spread out, and resources are going to leak, just leak and leak and leak.
And your discussion also brought up this like 2 things which we have are like building up in Ambassador Program. One is having loads of busy work, and that it comes without any clear goals. And another thing is what I imagine what Ambassador Program could be a good space to do is providing opportunity for others to pick up things and learn to kind of along with ambassadors. If you don't have clear goals, clear processes in place, it's very hard for new people to get onboarded. They have to spend much more energy to understand first, maybe an entire quarter, to kind of get introduced into what Workgroup is doing before they're actually able to contribute. And I mean, to me, it's inefficient. And this is what happens, quite frankly, in Ambassador Program, in some workgroups. And in order to mitigate that, proposals do provide this opportunity. And on the chat, I see like constant this thing that like there are 3 types of proposals we're doing here. One is what we're mostly showing here is workgroup proposals, where there are people who already know what they're doing. They have been doing it. They want to continue. They have, of course, they have some mini projects, some new ideas, and you can incorporate that into proposal and say, hey, we allocate $500 because this is an average amount that takes to do something new that pops up. Nothing is stopping you to experiment and be creative and pull something out of hat, but just saying that, hey, we allow that room to play around. We don't know the future. The second thing is there is the other three proposal types that are for new work groups that actually are not requiring any big proposal, and what is more online what Vanessa said, that's just few paragraphs. What is the problem you see? How you want to help the ambassador program? And the second thing is what an average estimation, like just $100, $200, and the people, what skills you think are needed to solve that problem you want to address. And that's it. And the third template that nobody has yet used, which is quite complicated, is setting up a program, which is there like going meta now because it's already an ambassador program and setting another program inside it. And one example what we have in the ambassador program is the translation work. This is like a complete processed map, like a clear thing. You put input, you get an output. You put input, and this is now service that is already actually scaling up and moving towards providing service to other spin-offs. And this is what I feel like ambassador program could provide. Like we have education guild. Could we have a service of education guild that I know Mindplex comes in, hey, we want people to educate on this new feature we are launching, and they buy or like service ambassador program to provide that service. Right now, it's like a kind of loose, very loose, because of course, again, we're learning and educating each other how to be provided. But when I joined here, I have been quite relaxed for at least a year, but I'm getting more strict because I think I see here for like more than 6 months, more than a year now. I think you should have now enough experience to know how to run, to facilitate, to set up programs, and do that stuff. But it requires writing it down, because you cannot just say it, then you also have to say it every week, every meeting, and you get nowhere. And this is where right now bulk of our funds are going. We're spending tens of thousands of dollars for you to learn, but you're not teaching others. And that's the issue, which I think having proposals and having more systemic thinking will help us. But yeah, I went to the rant, but then Guilermo started.
I think especially the part you mentioned about us putting forward services to spin-off projects, that would be, for me at least, the most clear use case of having these proposals out there. Like when you're in touch with them and you say like, well, we have well, any work group, it doesn't really matter which, like it's hard to give a proper outline. Well, if there's a document, it's simple. That feels very basic to me. But maybe something we can do for this quarter, just to not get stuck on the whole budget discussion for 2 months. I would suggest to separate it for now. Get people's budget request in, keep it very straightforward, just budget. And then outside of that, work on a work group proposal document or whatever you call it. Just an outline of what the work group is. And then later, yeah, you can, in the Q2 budget request, you can link to the document. Also, as Vanessa mentioned in chat, like that will change over time, but probably, well, it can, I guess, but that would feel to me like the least bureaucratic way of going about it. Like I wouldn't want to force people now to get this document, which in my mind is only, it's like a 2-pager, right? But still, I think we should get the budgets sorted first.
I just wanted to mention for video work group, we still haven't had our first meeting since the holiday. And in this first meeting, we will be having votes for the one of the responsibilities that we have is like representing the work group. And I mean, up to now, I'm still like representing the work group because the votes, not the vote, but the random assignment didn't happen yet. I did put in some stuff that are recurrent. I put them in Excel sheet, but I would prefer to maybe not share it now, but maybe after we have our meeting, which is tomorrow. So maybe tomorrow night or in the weekend, I can share it with the Treasury. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think one thing we would perhaps need to be clear also, that if you're not proposing proposal right now, or not in even in 1 month, it's not an issue. And again, when I share templates, it's everything is advisory and suggestion. It means this is a best practice, in my opinion, and it was put together by several ambassadors and people who joined the work group and going through it. What we are expecting is, like what Peter mentioned, a proposal, and proposal can be just a budget line. And then, well, we decide on it. If we suddenly have all of people doing proposals and we have budget issues, we may end up again in this situation where we need to do budget cuts or like fitting. And well, then there is a high likelihood that those who are just bringing a budget line without any explanation has just a higher degree of chance that we reduce the rewards more, but just a speculation. Hopefully we don't even reach to that point where we need to do budget fitting because of the token price, but depends on what people have now in mind on doing. And the second thing is, for example, for T-Work PBL, which is another work group, there is not going to a proposal like that. What instead we are planning is proposing to use the previous budget, like from the previous proposal. The funds were not used, the kind of got stalled out, the work group didn't run in the full capacity. And the proposal will be just pulling the previous quarter budget to this quarter. And that will be a proposal. Then, of course, again, this is again up to us to decide, is it good enough or not? But that's an example I just bring out now. So the bureaucratic thing is, the idea is just to put it into writing what you need, and the more information you can provide, the best. And this minimum requirements is just the best possible example you could provide us.
So
Yes.
with risk of opening a whole can of worms, but Tommy, I see a question in chat, and I'm wondering what makes you think that. How would Treasury be involved with the structure of work groups and guilds? Because I don't see that.
Well, if you have to make a proposal to Treasury to justify yourself, they're policing the management of the guilds and work groups. Just by the document, the 3-pager that is put up there, it's justification of skills and things like that. Treasury to me is about money.
This is kind of why I was saying earlier that we should have some kind of, I don't know, rules on what you can challenge and why.
Yeah, fair. I think there was agreement on that last bit. I don't really think it's policing so much. It's just like, what's the alternative? Simply work groups not having any description of what they do. Like that's the other extreme. I don't think it should be down to Treasury to decide how a work group is structured at all. I'm missing something, I feel.
Yeah, I think this is a bit too far shot. Like, we are not telling you how to structure yourself. Like, you can have no rows. You can just have a budget line. But in the end, if you don't provide us anything, why we should just drop you $5,000? Like, it's
Tommy, are you feeling like a work group could put in this document of this is what we're all about, and that Treasury would be able to say, no, we don't think you should be all about that, so therefore your funding is denied? Because I don't think that's what anyone's saying, but it feels like that's how it's coming across.
Yeah, they're not saying that right now, but where's it going to be in the
Right.
future? I mean, why does a work group have to justify roles and skills to the Treasury?
I would say not.
And this
Treasury.
is supposed to be a decentralized, more decentralized organization. This is just centralizing and making it more bureaucratic.
you're not bringing it to Treasury only, you're bringing it to Ambassador Program. You're justifying your requirements to entire program, and Treasury here is to kind of help with guidelines how to best achieve that in most efficient way, and also make sure that we are not overspending. But we are not deciding here, like, is your proposal going past? Like, if you have seen past year, everything has passed, and there is nothing that stops us. Or you, I mean. What stops us is the policy rules we're making, and usually they are about either meritocratic positions. For example, the blocking rewards, it's still unclear, is it abolished or not? So far, in my opinion, it is, but again, that wasn't really, again, clear decisions. And that's another thing which we have issues about. Like, creating a rule book is on our one huge issue, which comes to, again, these rules.
So Tommy, what would work for you then? And in what way would you see this going forward in a way that doesn't feel centralized? Because I don't think anybody's aiming for more centralization, pretty much.
I think we should put in budgets. I have no issue with that. I think they should evolve to an annual budget. I know we started and I think I initiated the quarterly. It should go to an annual budget for the guild so we can plan the whole year, broken into quarterly chunks. That's how most businesses run. You don't enter with a quarter budget and not have the whole year planned out. I don't think Treasury should be involved in what a guild is and what a guild is not in the form of administration or holding things up. Should be involved in a budget, and does someone get rewarded or not? I'm fine with that. I think that's great. Treasury has come a long way. We've got a great system. I think it's aiming to be too bureaucratic, too structured. Tevo.
I'd just like to quickly ask a little bit more about the annual budget idea, because I just don't feel that a lot of work groups are ready for that. And also it militates against you being responsive and changing elements of you. You know, how would you build in the ability to respond to changing circumstances? Or at the end of a quarter, you review what you've done and you've gone, we've completely forgotten about blah, blah, blah. We need to budget for that. How would you manage annual budgets to make that happen? If this is like a sidetrack and we don't need to discuss it now, then let's not. But
Yeah, I think it's a little bit sidetracked, but it does come to proposal, because what you just said was planning, and proposal is planning. So yeah, but we do have 10 minutes left. There are some suggestions that came up over this weekend that I thought we could say and have a quick warm up on what on these policies you think. One is that establishing a 10% fluctuation risk buffer from reserve. So this is that situation where we are in this environment where you have these AGIX tokens, you're requesting, let's say you're requesting your budget of $2,000 in AGIX, and now the price drops, I don't know, 30%. And now what you could have done is you could have put that risk mitigation into the budget calculation, but then every workgroup might have it differently. So having like a fluctuation from reserve, would that be something that people would be interested, so that we save us from trying to risk mitigate and allow like a holistic mitigation? And any thoughts on that? Is that the idea that we should implement as a policy, or let every workgroup figure out its own what to do if price fluctuates?
Is it are you suggesting like a fixed kind of variation for all, or?
Yeah, kind of fixed variation.
Mm.
So even if the price drops, let's say 10%, you still get your full amount of budget you're requesting. If it now drops more than 10%, then we're going to, for example, to what we did last quarter was this budget fitting.
And how would you how would you do the accounting at the end, like based on the max, average, min?
I don't know.
I think it's a good idea. But let me ask you a question. Q4, where were we on overall budget? How did we end up the year?
Not sure.
Well, under budget, that's for sure. But don't know the exact.
Would the dashboards show us something?
Yeah, yeah, I can give you a number. Just hold a sec.
I also noticed that some of the tasks from video that were not paid out throughout like the last, in the holiday period were like marked as January. That might mess up the accounting a bit.
And this comes back to, are we on a cash accounting system or an accrual accounting system? So
Yeah.
for instance, in education, we have some videos assigned that haven't been delivered, but they've been assigned and it puts us way under budget. And I think we should be on an accrual basis, not a cash basis.
Yeah, sometimes if some tasks go to January, it either means the task didn't have a date or it was moved to in review before the date, or it had some kind of month in the title, or we just misunderstood the task suggestion, date suggestions. And then, yeah, nothing can be done with if we put it on metadata.
Andre, what's 70,275 represent?
That is left over.
Okay, leftover. So what I would recommend is we take the 70,000, take out 10% for stuff that hasn't been paid from last year, reserve that, and take the balance and put it into your token fluctuation pool, Tevo. It also gives us a little bit of a cushion. And then you don't have to allocate for token fluctuation because you have a pretty big cushion.
Is there anybody who objects to that or feels like the percent is too small or too big?
I'm not too sure if we put it in there right now at the current valuation. The moment price goes down significantly, I don't know. It feels like if the 70K is left over from the total budget of 171, we only spent 100,000, I think.
Yeah, but Vanessa makes a good point that these people are still gonna put in requests because not everyone has requested out of that quota.
Yeah, very true.
I would also suggest, well, that's why I said 10% for last year, reserve some. But I would also then suggest that we stake that AGIX in the AGIX staking pool and earn interest on it.
Can we stake? Because I think right now the staking is locking it in.
Yeah, we can. I mean, it is locked in, but at the same time, do we ever require it like right now, all of it? I
Yeah.
don't think so.
And who would stake it? Would it be Treasury Guild or would it be Peter?
I would prefer not to do that myself, to be honest.
But Peter, I mean, you're the only person who has a contract, does it?
I would set up a multi-sig wallet.
Yeah, the problem with that is that these platforms do not allow for multi-sig. You have to have some I don't know, API kind of access to the platform, and most of them, I don't know. Tevo, does any of the DEXs allow for API staking?
I have no clue. And when we talk about AGIX staking, I think we only can look at the one staking platform that Singularity is providing. There's nobody else. Well, DEXs provide liquidity pools, but they are totally different thing, and it's also not multi-sig.
Right, but I think we should support AGIX with our AGIX, or Singularity Net with our AGIX, and stake it there.
Fair enough.
I agree in the sense that, well, it's great to lock it up, and it's getting 5% APY, so that's all good. I'm just trying to think of what it would entail on like if there's legal implications, if there's, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're getting back to this territory where we thought, let's set up our own stake pool.
Well,
But this is different because you're minting AGIX from AGIX, and that's just printing your own money, and you don't tax it.
yeah, fair. That's all good and well. But if I do it and somehow at the end of the story need to pay taxes on it, I'm fucked. So, you know.
Yeah, it shouldn't be in your name because your country and you have a different tax thing going on.
Yeah,
we can just do it from the Ambassador wallet, because when we sign that transaction on the Singularity Net platform, I mean, we send it to them, and then we just receive it back into the same wallet if we take it out, and it doesn't have to go to any other wallets.
I think it has to go. I mean, it doesn't have to, but if we use the same wallet, we have to make sure we never touch the UTXO. But our treasury system doesn't really select UTXOs where we pay out, because as soon as we touch the UTXO that is staking, we break our staking cycle, and we need to wait another 2 weeks or 2 epochs before we get rewards. So whether it's like a separate wallet that is staking and rewards, I'm not sure how the AGIX is there providing opportunity to provide staking rewards to a different wallet. If not, and it just compounds on itself, then basically we just have like one investing wallet, and whenever we need it for I don't know what, like for funds, then we just pull out.
like the idea of like a check-in and a savings account would make sense here. This is kind of what you described, Tevo. I mean, having another wallet that doesn't have this constant activity, sending transactions and receiving, but rather just for staking, makes more sense. And then leaving the Ambassador wallet for, you know, activity, you know, like a check-in account.
Yeah, something popping up in chat to potentially discuss as well would be regarding BGI and sending over some ambassadors to Panama. This would also be Treasury related. Not sure if this is the right space for the topic, to be honest. But yeah, well, let me put it like that. What would be the right space of discussing spending reserve funds on compensating people for portion of their expenses? Because I'm not sure if people here read, but we're getting 5 slots for ambassadors to attend in person the BGI summit. And there will be some compensation, additional compensation from foundation side. They can cover 15 hotel nights. So that's pretty decent. But we're still have some decision making to do on would we compensate people's flights or cover half of their flights, or all these. We don't have a template for this, let's say. And I also note we're on the end of the slot. But yeah, I do want to check in, like what makes sense to go with this topic. Like, would it fit into Treasury, or should I just host a separate session on it, or how do we do the decision making on it?
Yeah, maybe Ambassador is a good place to discuss that on assembly. But right now we are already over the time. We had one policy we wanted to bring, but that's actually something that then you bring to your home or like to your outside, like suggesting work groups to have unplanned budgets. So when you are making budget requests or proposals, also think about things you're not planning and using your past experience, how much it will cost, and include that in your proposal. And then there was like this additional rules that if there is going to be price fitting, then we will deplete all the unplanned budgets from all the work groups and then start to fit from all the work groups at once. But yeah, with this, let's call it an end for tonight. And I will do a meeting summary at some point, and we can continue the discussion in Treasury Guild call.
Yeah, this makes me kind of wonder on how do we go forward with the budget proposals, and do we require a full work group proposal right now, or do we what makes sense there?
Like I mentioned previously, the best, if you could provide proposal, that is the best outcome. If you're not able to do that, or you're against that idea, then create the quarterly budget requests. And next meeting, we will then aggregate all the requests and proposals into one sheet and see what's the outcome. And if the proposal doesn't have to be using the templates that is shared on Miro boards, it can also be something that you come up or that ChatGPT throws you in. At least something that includes budget that you are requesting for quarter 1.
That kind of makes me inclined to at least for the current quarter, to if people don't submit a full workgroup proposal, to not punish them, like to make them having more chance of getting rejected, for example.
Well, this is a decentralized environment, so that's up to others to decide if the budget request is fair or not. And proposal simply helps to reinforce the request. We can't force people to write proposals, but we can suggest them.
Yeah, fair.
I just think the proposal should focus on the work that you plan to do for the quarter, not for your whole overall.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's what it is, yeah?
Per quarter. Although knowledge-based proposal is doing 2 quarters at once, because it's like a project-based, and I have a better. But if you don't have a time capacity, you don't have to. It's just something I did, and it made sense in my work. All right, thanks for joining. I will end up this call with a quick meeting summary video that is cut into separate clip. So I'm gonna stop recording.